First of all, you work things out on your own, but you depend on the director to let you know if you're slightly off there.
Olivia de Havilland ventured to sue Warner Brothers in 1944 and won, an act that no other performer had ever dared to do. Her mysteries extended well beyond that too, including her stunning friendship with Howard Hughes and her furious feuds with her sister. All eyes were on Hollywood's good girl, mischievous actress. The lady who outwitted Hollywood for more than 7 decades is the subject of today's revelation. Tokyo, Japan was the site of Olivia de Havilland's birth on July 1, 1916. Walt and Lillian, her parents, were British and had emigrated to Japan in search of employment. Walter worked as a lecturer and patent attorney, while Lillian devoted herself to raising her family after leaving her acting career behind. They resided in a spacious Western-style mansion, encircled by more conventional Japanese houses. As a child, Olivia would listen to her mother sing English songs accompanied by temple bells, and she would view cherry blossoms accompanied by British tea ceremonies. However, things were already going downhill for their family. The marriage of Walter and Lillian was troubled. Living in a new nation was difficult for Lillian, and rumors circulated that Walter was unfaithful. Things took a turn for the worse when Walter proposed that Olivia live with a Japanese family so she could immerse herself in the culture. After Lillian's refusal, she and her girls departed Japan in 1920. She quietly left Walter behind and boarded a ship to San Francisco with Olivia and Joan, her infant sister. It was not easy living in California. As a result, Lillian found herself in a foreign nation, raising 2 daughters on her own. In the hopes that Joan, who was prone to illness, would benefit from the fresh air, she decided to relocate in Saratoga, a tiny town situated south of San Francisco. Lillian started teaching theater, utilizing her acting abilities to help support her family. After observing her mother teach, Olivia had a strong interest in school performances. Acting became Olivia's passion when she was 14 years old. The experience was enchanted for Olivia when her instructor placed her as the lead in Alice in Wonderland. When she was on stage, she let her guard down and was completely immersed in the drama. However, George Fontaine, her stepfather, did not share her passion. He wanted her to stop acting since he believed it was pointless. Olivia turned down the offer. His ultimatum was to stop behaving or leave the house, and she chose to go. She continued her playing career in school and community theater after moving in with friends of the family. Her perseverance was rewarded. Olivia staged a community rendition of A Midsummer Night's Dream as Hermia when she was 18 years old. An assistant to the famous director Max Reinhardt was in the crowd, checking out potential actors for a future staging of the same play at the Hollywood Bowl. After seeing Olivia perform, the assistant offered her the post of Hermia's second understudy. Luck dictated what happened next. The main actress and the first understudy both left a week prior to the debut. As of September 15, 1934, Olivia had stepped in and given a breathtaking performance. As a result of his profound admiration, Reinhardt hired her to direct Warner Brothers' adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and invited her to accompany him on the subsequent tour. He chose Olivia without hesitation to play Hermia. At first, she was hesitant to sign the contract since she wanted to be a teacher. However, after some convincing from Reinhardt and a Warner Brothers executive, she eventually agreed to work for $200 a week for 5 years. Although it wasn't a fortune, it was the beginning of her life-altering career in Hollywood. Coming into Hollywood as a novice wasn't a picnic. Her initial screenings were already a source of anxiety. As she tried on her outfit for the first time for A Midsummer Night's Dream, it became uncomfortable and nearly tore. She pulled herself together just to pass the audition. The studio also engaged a coach to help her sound more American, since they felt her voice was too gentle and sluggish. It was unsuccessful. Fortunately, Reinhardt was content with her voice as it was. In 1935, she had her breakthrough role in the film adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream. The production was enormous for its period, with a vast budget and a premiere attended by a star-studded cast. Critics were impressed by Olivia's performance, despite her nerves and the fact that she tripped on the red carpet. She was suddenly very sought after. Next, in 1935, her career took off when she was partnered with the relatively unknown 26-year-old Errol Flynn in Captain Blood. Olivia was only 19 years old at the time, and Flynn was cast at the last minute when another actor dropped out. Warner Brothers took a chance on Flynn despite his lack of acting skills, and the move paid off. Olivia and Flynn's chemistry was palpable the second the cameras started rolling. Audiences were captivated by their irresistible charisma and carefree spirit. At the time of its release, Captain Blood was a smashing success, grossing over $1.35 million. Their sudden fame appeared natural, and critics praised their performances. Olivia spoke out about her affection for Flynn later on, but because he was married, their relationship remained purely businesslike. Their on-screen chemistry was already thrilling, but the underlying tension further added to it. Thanks to Captain Blood and its popularity, Olivia and Flynn were cast in a number of films together. Olivia portrayed Maid Marian and Flynn played Robin Hood in The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, one of 8 films they appeared in together over a 6-year period. The use of vivid Technicolor in this film was a significant step forward. With $4 million in box office receipts and 3 Oscars to its name, it was undeniably a smashing success. Their performances solidified their status as one of the most beloved on-screen couples in Hollywood, and audiences adored their dynamic pairing. Actor Errol Flynn's character says to Olivia's character, "Walking through life with you, ma'am, has been a very gracious thing." The touching scene at the end of their 1941 film, They Died with Their Boots On, felt like a goodbye, not only for their characters but also for their legendary partnership. Olivia was actively seeking more substantial possibilities at the same time as she was flourishing in her flicks with Flynn. Films like 1939's Gone with the Wind gave her her breakthrough role. Although Olivia was adamant about playing Melanie Hamilton, Warner Brothers would not lend her to the creators of the film. Never one to quit up, Olivia approached Anne, Jack Warner's wife, and persuaded her to lend a hand. The role of Melanie, which Olivia landed because to Anne's influence, transformed her life. A cultural sensation, Gone with the Wind, made nearly $32 million upon its debut, which was unprecedented for the period. The role of Melanie, the kind and caring protagonist, brought Olivia a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Despite losing, she was once again acknowledged as one of Hollywood's most promising young stars. Since starring in Gone with the Wind, Olivia's career has taken off. She had graduated from the role of Errol Flynn's co-star to that of a major actress. She stepped away from the stereotypically sweet roles she had portrayed before and into more demanding parts. Her portrayal in Hold Back the Dawn, 1941, was so outstanding that it garnered her a Best Actress Oscar nomination. Despite Joan Fontaine's best efforts, Olivia demonstrated that she was not going anywhere. Olivia was making a fortune of $400,000 a year by the early 1940s, making her one of Hollywood's highest-paid performers. Frustration, though, came along with her triumph. Back in the day, Hollywood studios had complete influence over their actors' life. They dictated their movie roles, public personas, and even personal decisions on occasion. Studios had the power to penalize performers who defied their commands. If Olivia declined a part, she would be suspended without pay. Even worse, the suspensions extended her contract by additional time, leaving her without revenue. A lot longer than the initial agreement, this technique kept the performers under the grip of the company. Olivia was suspended from 1939 to 1943 for a period of 25 weeks. In 1942, she was subjected to one of these punishments when she declined to appear in the film Gentleman Jim. Despite this, Warner Brothers continued to sign her contract. The continual battles made her feel confined, and by 1943, she had had enough. She had to turn down other major parts, such as in The Gay Sisters and George Washington Slept Here. Though Olivia believed she had completed her 7-year contract, Warner Brothers asserted that, due to the several suspensions, she owed them 6 months. In her frustration, she made the decision to resist. Martin Gagnon, a lawyer she hired, uncovered a statute from the Golden State that stated no agreement for individual services may be longer than 7 years. Olivia was willing to take a chance since no one had ever violated this legislation by going after a Hollywood studio. Warner Brothers was sued by her in August 1943. Back then, no actor had ever dared to challenge a big company in such a bold way. Olivia lived off her money and volunteered at military hospitals, visiting injured troops since she was unable to work due to the litigation. Olivia remained composed despite Warner Brothers' attempts to paint her in a negative light by accusing her of being spoilt and ungrateful. "I didn't refuse, I declined." Her graceful response graced the courtroom when the question of whether she had refused to work was raised. The court ruled in favor of Olivia in March 1944. Warner Brothers was not allowed to renew her contract for more than 7 calendar years, according to their ruling. Despite the studio's appeal, the California Court of Appeals affirmed the verdict in December 1944, stating that the studio's conduct were unjust and even compared them to slavery. Following the rejection of the lawsuit by the California Supreme Court, Olivia's triumph was declared definitive. This marked a watershed event in the annals of Hollywood. Studio's long-standing monopoly on actor control ended with Olivia's lawsuit. No studio could ever again sign an actor for more than 7 years after her victory. Players were suddenly given greater leeway to pick their parts and bargain for higher contracts. Olivia Newton-John, for instance, leveraged the legal system to get out of her recording contract with MCA Records in 1979. Despite the 2-year absence from screen time caused by the lawsuit, Olivia's career was unaffected. She had a triumphant comeback in 1946 with her performance in To Each His Own. The film followed Jodie Norris as she falls in love, becomes pregnant outside of her marriage, and then gives her kid up for adoption. As the tale progresses, we follow her as she establishes a prosperous company, and in the end, finds her son again during Watu. Olivia had to portray Jodie's transformation from an optimistic adolescent to a strong, mature, and regretful older lady. It was for this emotionally charged performance that she received her first Academy Award in 1947. Her struggle for better parts had been worthwhile, and her victory proved it. It wasn't only about the medal, though. Then, in 1948, a picture called The Snake Pit arrived and horrified everyone. Olivia portrayed the role of Virginia Cunningham, a disturbed lady who finds herself in a mental institution without recollection of her journey there. Overcrowding, horrific treatments, and degrading circumstances were all depicted in graphic detail in the video. Olivia was completely absorbed in her performance. She visited to psychiatric facilities, watched patients, and even tried simulated electroshock therapy to put herself in her character's shoes. Everyone was raving about her performance since it was so moving and eerie. The film The Snake Pit had an impact beyond the theater. As a result of increased public awareness of the crisis in mental health treatment, 13 states amended their legislation to address the issue. At the Venice Film Festival, Olivia was honored with the esteemed Volpe Cup for her performance, which was highly acclaimed by critics. The picture was a smashing success, and further established Olivia as one of the most iconic actresses of all time, even if others thought it overstated the situation. The Heiress, 1949, was Olivia de Havilland's career-defining role. She portrayed the role of a timid and uneasy young woman in 1840s New York, Catherine Sloper, in the film. Olivia went through a dramatic transformation to play Catherine. She went on a weight gain and got a simple, ugly haircut for the part. Things were difficult on site. Montgomery Clift was strong and emotive in his employment of the new method approach, in contrast to Ralph Richardson's conventional acting manner. Despite Olivia's internal conflict, she skillfully portrayed Catherine's hardships, making them more relatable. Both reviewers and moviegoers gushed about the release of the film. In 1950, Olivia received her second Best Actress Oscar. After briefly thanking William Wyler, the film's director, she stepped down from the platform. Her status as one of the biggest actresses in Hollywood was solidified by her victory. With the success of The Heiress, Olivia refused to do cliched or easy parts again. She aspired for complex characters who faced difficult obstacles. She played an enigmatic woman in 1952's My Cousin Rachel, whose intentions are unclear. Olivia made sure that her performance would keep the viewers wondering. To really immerse herself in the character, she read the novel several times. In the years that followed, she moved on to more challenging parts, such as women coping with mental illness in The Ambassador's Daughter and Light in the Piazza. In these plays, she demonstrated her skill at managing delicate subjects. On television, Olivia was a star in live dramas and went on to win accolades for her portrayal of Anna in the 1986 miniseries Anastasia, The Mystery of Anna. Despite her advanced years, Olivia never ceased pushing herself. As an actress, she shocked audiences in 1964 with her performance as Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire, and thereafter turned down jobs she didn't find intriguing. Critics lauded Olivia for her strong performance, even if the film was controversial. Olivia was never one to settle with mediocrity in her professional life. She was hell-bent on proving that she was more than meets the eye. She was one of the most admired and gifted actresses of her day because of her daring decisions and unwavering commitment to her work. Joan, her younger sister, whom she gave birth to just 15 months after her, is another significant figure in her actual life. From a young age, the sisters had competed. People frequently referred to Joan as the intelligent one and Olivia as the beautiful one. Envy and competition were stoked by the similarities. Their brawls went down in history. There was an incident where Olivia allegedly shoved Joan into a pool, shattering her collarbone. Joan went on to say that she had considered harming Olivia as a youngster as a means of exacting retribution. The animosity persisted even as they matured. Their mother insisted that only one of the sisters could pursue acting professionally, despite their shared desire of becoming an actress. Olivia was given the upper hand because of her age. Joan quickly trailed behind, hell-bent on proving she could hold her own artistically. George Fontaine, their stepfather, made matters worse by continually drawing comparisons between them. He made everything about their youth a competition for his approval and admiration. Joan had had enough by the time she was 16 years old. She sought refuge from Olivia's scrutiny by relocating to Tokyo to be with their biological father. 2 years later, Joan returned to the United States, and their animosity resumed just where it had left off. Now an assured young woman, Joan aspired to follow in Olivia's footsteps and become an actor. An eternal rivalry was about to begin. Their Hollywood feud reached a boiling point. Joan earned the lead in Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca in 1940, a part that Olivia had desired, not long after Olivia became renowned in 1939 for her part in Gone with the Wind. There was constant rivalry for leading parts in stardom. When both sisters received Best Actress nominations at the 1941 Academy Awards, tensions rose to a critical level. On Oscar night, the spotlight was squarely on the sisters, Olivia and Joan, for their respective nominations, Hold Back the Dawn and Suspicion, respectively. The tension between them became apparent when Joan's name was proclaimed as the winner. Joan allegedly rejected Olivia's efforts to mend fences, and others say Olivia flat out refused to congratulate her. Regardless of the reality, the incident further exacerbated the rift between them. Their on-screen antagonism quickly moved into their off-screen lives. All I know about him is that he's had 4 wives and written 1 book. Too bad it's not the other way around. Joan said this in 1946, which Olivia saw as an insult and became enraged over. She and Marcus Goodrich did not talk to each other for a long time after that. In interviews, they also poked fun at one another. According to Joan, "I married first, won the Oscar before Olivia did, and if I die first, she'll be mad because I beat her to it." Their dispute went from private to public, becoming an entertaining spectacle. In 1947 at the Oscars, they had another memorable altercation. Joan went to congratulate Olivia on her Best Actress win for To Each His Own. But Olivia ignored Joan's extended hand and turned away. Film footage of the snub went viral, further solidifying their status as the Hollywood twins known for their quarrel. Their animosity persisted even at their mother's funeral in 1975. Another public quarrel ensued when Joan claimed that Olivia had kept her in the dark regarding their mother's death. Claiming that Joan's charges were unneeded drama, Olivia disputed the accusations. The 1978 Academy Awards were their final public appearance together, but it didn't help them become closer. After hearing about Joan's death in 2013 at the age of 96, Olivia issued a brief statement expressing her sorrow. Olivia lived to be 104 years old, 7 years longer than Joan. She passed away in 2020. They accomplished a lot, but their lifelong conflict made it all seem insignificant. Ultimately, the truth about their romance lingered, and viewers were left to ponder the sisters' actual connection. Olivia de Havilland's private life was as interesting as her public career in Hollywood. She first crossed paths with the eccentric millionaire Howard Hughes in 1939. Howard made ostentatious, unexpected displays of affection in an effort to win her heart. The locals were startled when he once landed his own jet on the beach close to her house. Among Howard's pricey presents to Olivia was an exquisite engagement ring set with 5-carat emeralds. Unfortunately, their romance didn't last. Howard exerted a great deal of control. Olivia suspected he was eavesdropping on her and even tapped her phone. The low point was when Howard was involved in a terrible vehicle accident and somehow placed the blame on Olivia, claiming that she was to fault since she refused to accompany him to the dentist. For Olivia, that was sufficient. In his hospital room, she returned all of the presents, including the emerald ring, marking the end of their relationship. She demonstrated her strength with this daring action. During her romance with Jimmy Stewart in the 1930s, Olivia's life took a more pleasant turn. It was during the 1939 premiere of Gone with the Wind when Jimmy and Olivia began dating. Theirs was lighthearted and easygoing, in contrast to many Hollywood relationships. Jimmy was a pilot. In fact, he taught Olivia how to fly. Their romance was short-lived, despite her affection for him and admiration for his flying abilities. While Jimmy's and his wife's professions were on the rise, he enlisted in the military in 1941 in preparation for the impending war. Despite their breakup, Olivia and Jimmy became close friends throughout their lives. She declined a part in It's a Wonderful Life many years later, due to her discomfort with the prospect of acting opposite her ex-boyfriend. The romance between Olivia and filmmaker John Huston was the most intense and emotional one she had ever experienced. Although John was married, the two couldn't resist falling in love in 1941 while filming In This Our Life. Their courtship was all Hollywood could talk about, particularly because Olivia was known for being so prim and proper. They startled many by openly living together at the conclusion of shooting. But John was crazy. He was known to drink heavily and be with a lot of women. The relationship between them has its share of highs and lows. Years later, at a party, one of the most dramatic moments occurred when Olivia's ex-co-star Errol Flynn made a nasty remark about her. John grew enraged and confronted Errol, leading to a physical altercation. John had a fractured nose and other injuries, while Errol ended up with broken ribs. Both men wound up in the hospital. Olivia de Havilland's first official step into wedded life was on August 26, 1946, when she wed Marcus Goodrich. Olivia was just 18 years old when she married Marcus, a Navy veteran writer and journalist who had been married 4 times before. Their union was fraught from the beginning. Marcus had a lack of self-confidence due to his explosive anger and attempts to exert control over Olivia. Benjamin, their son, was born to them in 1949. Olivia devoted herself fully to raising him since she enjoyed being a mother. Life with Marcus became more challenging, but she remained determined to make it work. The promises she had made at their religious wedding had ensnared her. She considered getting a divorce, but the idea seemed insurmountable. She sought advice from a clergyman, but her situation remained unchanged. It got to be too much in due time. Olivia finally determined in 1952 that she couldn't continue to live with Marcus. He was mentally abusive, she said, so she filed for a divorce. Their marriage had legally ended by 1953. Olivia was devastated by what happened, yet she held on for Benjamin. He took center stage in her life, and she did all in her power to provide a secure environment for him. A few years down the road, at the 1953 Cannes Film Festival, Olivia crossed paths with Pierre Galante, an editor at Paris Match. They were married in 1955 when Olivia's love for him blossomed. She uprooted her life from Hollywood and started over in Paris. Olivia gladly adapted to her new environment, immersed herself in French culture, and eventually became an accepted member of Parisian society. She gave birth to a daughter, Giselle, in 1956 with Pierre. In order to shield her from the scrutiny of stardom, Olivia was content to bring her up in France. However, their union was not without its battles. They didn't always agree since Pierre was so busy with work. Separation was officially announced in 1962. To everyone's surprise, they stayed married. Olivia expressed her preference for remaining together voluntarily rather than coerced. They stayed in touch and helped raise Giselle together. Olivia cared for Pierre from the time he got sick in the 1990s until he died in 1998. Their unbreakable link was evident in her unwavering commitment and kind spirit. Olivia's first concern was always for her children. Benjamin, who was born to her first marriage, was her beloved son. She remained steadfastly by his side through his adolescent cancer diagnosis. As she had previously stated, "Benjamin is the most important thing in my life." She did everything she could to aid his recovery, including taking him to therapies. Benjamin lived to be 41 years old until his untimely death in 1991. Olivia was utterly saddened. She referred to it as the most terrible thing that has ever happened to me. Giselle, her daughter from her second marriage, spent her childhood in France. Olivia made great efforts to provide her with a typical existence. She wished that Giselle might be recognized for more than just being Olivia de Havilland's daughter. They had a strong bond, but Giselle did have trouble handling her mother's reputation at times. Olivia pushed her to be self-reliant and highlighted the need of education. After Giselle had her own family, Olivia cherished her role as a grandparent. She remarked, "Being a grandmother is even better than being a mother. You get all the fun without the responsibility." Olivia de Havilland was still going strong at 101 years of age. The day before her 101st birthday, on June 30, 2017, she pulled a U-turn and sued FX Networks and the makers of Feud, Betty and Joan. Catherine Zeta-Jones had played her as a gossip. This, in Olivia's opinion, was totally out of character and inappropriate for her real life. Scenes in which her character insulted Frank Sinatra and her sister Joan Fontaine really irritated her. Because Olivia had always been reserved and polite, this depiction wounded her profoundly. She went to court, claiming that the show had harmed her reputation and caused her severe distress. Additionally, she felt they ought to have compensated her and sought her consent before using her appearance. A major topic arising from the case is the amount of leeway that filmmakers should have when depicting actual individuals, particularly those who are still living. Olivia first achieved a little triumph when the court allowed her case to proceed to trial. However, FX filed an appeal, and in 2018, a higher court rejected her arguments, upholding the show's right to free expression. The legal team representing Olivia attempted to appeal to the highest courts, but they declined to consider the matter. Despite the outcome, Olivia's audacious attempt demonstrated her resilience and will, even at the age of 101. After marrying French journalist Pierre Galante in 1953, Olivia relocated to Paris, where she led a glitzy but sedate life for the next decades. With mementos from her time in Hollywood, including her 2 Academy Awards, her mansion had an air of refined elegance. With an air that was equal parts European elegance and classic Hollywood glitz, She enjoyed throwing intimate parties for friends and cultural icons. To her, Paris was more than a city, it was a haven. The golden era of Hollywood came to a close with Olivia's death on July 26, 2020, at the age of 104. A chapter in cinematic history was closed with her death. She was the last major star of that era. Several of the world's most distinguished awards were bestowed upon Olivia in her latter years. Her remarkable contributions to cinema were honored when President George W. Bush presented her with the National Medal of Arts at the age of 92. In recognition of her contributions to the arts and her extensive ties to Paris, France bestowed its highest accolade, the Legion of Honor, upon her 2 years later. Olivia became the oldest person ever to be named a dame in 2017, shortly before her 101st birthday, by the honor of Queen Elizabeth II. Not only was her tremendous impact acknowledged, but so was her mixed British-American origins. Her accomplishments were also recalled by Hollywood. In honor of her career and her courageous resistance to the studio system in 1940s Hollywood, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences presented her with a special homage. In 1944, Olivia triumphed in a well-known court dispute, which had a lasting impact on the acting business by granting actresses greater autonomy and control over their careers.